Please take your seat, especially you. Okay, welcome to the 2025 critique, one of the most enjoyable meetings we have every year, unless they really hate my piece, in which case I'll be crushed. But everyone else will doubtless have an even better time. Okay, I want to start.
All right, well, Tom has done a really excellent job of introducing himself. Tom has done a really excellent job of introducing himself as our resident woodturner for the evening. And you remember he was here in June to turn a platter, and that platter is actually coming back. Hi, Claudia. That platter is actually coming back in the show. Okay, so you'll get to see what happened with that. Tom is a member of CAW, as we've mentioned, down in Virginia. He is their current newsletter editor, and he was previously the program director as well, which is when I met him, and we used to share a lot of demonstrators because he was kind enough to bring them on a Thursday night from Northern Virginia around the Beltway at rush hour to get here. And so we shared a lot of good demonstrators because of Tom. So thank you again for that, Tom.
Gary, can we have last names?
Huber, H-U-B-E-R.
Thank you.
So Tom likes to take classes from the demonstrators when he hires them. So whatever they make, he makes, and quickly too. He's kind of like Jeff in that respect. He doesn't wait around. He gets things done. He also does community service in wood turning at the Woodlawn Plantation, which is down by Mount Vernon, one of the ex-George Washington properties, where he donates his time and turning for their shop, where they sell pieces of wood art that he has made. And in real life, you know, people do have real lives too. Tom started out as a Navy brat, San Diego, among other places. He was a surfer. Can you imagine this guy on a surfboard? And he has a master's. Are you ready for this? He has a master's in medieval history. Okay. And that was, of course, before he spent 23 years in the Air Force, serving as ultimately a lieutenant colonel, along with his lovely wife, Lieutenant Colonel retired Charlie Brown. So we thank Tom very much, and for Charlie for coming around the Beltway again. All right. Next is Natalia Kormaluk. You may remember Natalia from 2 years ago when she was on this panel. She is a ceramic artist with incredible experience in both small wheel-thrown pieces and big sculptural pieces as well. You wouldn't believe it looking at her, but she taught at the Field School in Washington for 40 years and had a lot of good projects down there. She chaired their studio arts department. She is currently the director of the Graduate Ceramics Program at Hood College in Frederick, where she advises and teaches over 15 students who are pursuing their graduate degrees. Her primary work is functional and thrown on the wheel, but if you ever go to Pittsburgh and go to the Cathedral of Learning at the University of Pittsburgh, they have nationality rooms, and if you go into the nationality room there, you will find a humongous what do you call them?
It's a warming stove.
A warming stove. That's how they used to keep warm in castles. She actually built that. I've seen it, and it's amazing. So
I said hand slaps because Jane Larson, who is a
Right.
local person, did everything right.
Natalia's originally from Ukraine, for better or worse, and even with the drones falling on people's heads for the last 2 years, she has gone back to teach and juror pottery. She just got back a couple of months ago. So we've heard all about what it's like. You have apps on your phone, right? If you're Ukrainian, if you, instead of having a weather app, you have a drone app, and it will tell you if there's a Russian drone coming to drop on your head. Serious, true story. Crazy stuff. All right, well, anyway, thank you so much, Natalia, for coming again tonight. She had a long drive, believe me. She lives about a mile away. And of course, third but not last, we have our dear friend Barbara Wolanin, who many of you know, but we have new members here, so I'm going to have to do the whole shtick. Okay. Barbara is the widow of our founder and first president, Phil Brown. And so, of course, she is now the keeper of the Phil Brown wood turning collection, among other things. And she has donated literally tons, and I mean tons, of wood to this club, individual members, and also Dwayne took like 3 pickup loads full of this stuff, and that's why Dwayne is bringing wood to just about every silent auction, because that's Barbara's wood that he is now selecting carefully and cutting up for our use.
Bill always did that, and it's wonderful stuff.
So thank you to both Barbara and to Dwayne for that. But in her own right, Dr. Barbara Wolanin is an art historian and curator of American art, and she has taught art history at the university level, and she has authored catalogs, and she was also on the board at the James Renwick Alliance. But
Still am, and you're all
still,
welcome.
oh, okay.
Yes, you're all welcome to join. I think I got a new member tonight.
All right, excellent. But her real job for 30 years, and I have to say this slowly and carefully, was as the curator for the architect of the U.S. Capitol, where she managed the conservation of all the good stuff there and bringing in new art. And she is responsible, was responsible. You still do something, right?
Well, emerita.
She is emerita curator, which means she still keeps her fingers in the pie. But she was responsible for all the buying and the moving and the fixing and the cleaning and the restoring of everything in the U.S. Capitol. And so basically, if you needed anything done there for 30 years.
Only the things that were under the architect.
Okay.
Not everything is. It's
all-
political.
All that Barbara had to say was, make it so.
Yeah, right.
I'll get to it.
All right.
Will you add it before January 6, 2021?
Actually, one of my favorite images of Barbara was with a hard hat on top of the dome on a scaffold, standing next to the replaced and cleaned Statue of Freedom, which was her responsibility for getting fixed. So that was quite a job.
And keep it conserved, so not many times.
So this is Barbara's 4th time on the panel, and she was actually on the very first one. Thank you very much. All right, that's your panel. That's why they're here.
Ready? All right, now we can start.
Anyway, this piece,
Your name, please.
okay, Justin Fields. I'm a fairly novice wood turner. I've only had a lathe for like 6 months, something like that.
Oh, my goodness.
Not very long. And I've started enjoying the segmented turning as just something that appeals to me. Not exclusively, but this one is. And I wanted to experiment with some form of mixed media, just from looking on YouTube and websites and stuff like that. I found a million different projects with epoxy and resin and all of that. And that's not exactly the look I wanted, so I went in a different direction. And chose to use polymer clay. I'd used it before, my kids had used it, make stuff, and you put it in the oven and you bake it until it hardens. I'd never seen anything done with the combination of like turned wood and polymer clay. So it's like, give it a shot as an experiment. This is the piece that I made. I fully formed, or not fully, I mostly formed the segmented blank, cut all the pieces, glued everything up. Then I ended up clamping it all together, drilling holes all the way through. They go all the way through the piece. So if you look at one, it comes out the other side. And they do also go through the joints between the pieces, the segments. So I couldn't pre-drill the segments and then put it together. I had to put the whole thing together first. And then bake it in the oven. This one went in for about an hour and a half at 275 degrees to set the clay, which is hot enough to loosen the glue. I called Tight Bond and asked and got the information on that. So for the baking process, I hose clamped all the rings tightly together so they wouldn't fall apart in the oven. And I put a weight on the top to hold it down vertically. So then when I baked it for an hour and a half, let it cool and turned it. There was some problem with these loosening up, but mostly they were just in here by friction. And the stuff turned really well. I mean, minor issues, but that was the objective, was a test piece with wood and polymer clay. And not a specific pattern, but the thought behind the coloring and layout of the holes was that they were sort of bubbles coming up from the bottom.
Okay, just hand it to the family. Tom, if you want to move that stuff off the table, you can put that up too. And please use the microphone.
It would be easier, to just take that off that big stand and just pass that down.
Oh, that's-
I think that would be a lot easier.
Well, we have to have a turn stand, of course.
Okay.
Whenever you're doing segment, I have a lot of respect for people who do segmented work, because I completely lack the patience to do it, because all of these cuts have to be precise, and they all have to be glued together, and it all has to work very well. I simply lack the patience to do that. And besides that, I don't have a table saw. But one of the things I notice about this is how well all these, the glued pieces are. In many cases, you'll see a lot of turned segmented pieces with voids in them. This is really well done as far as that goes. When we're looking at a piece, particularly a piece like this, what is the first thing that catches your eye? The shape, okay? And unfortunately, for a piece like this, it's very stark. And one of the things you'll see is, and one of the things that our eye is, we're monkeys, okay? And so we got a million years of monkey evolution. And our eyes are really good at seeing minor imperfections. And one of the things you'll see is there's a flat spot here, okay? Now, does that really detract from this piece? Probably not. And it's very interesting. And the other question is about the foot. You know, sometimes people like feet on a piece and some people don't like feet on a piece.
I don't like them.
For some people, though, they're useful. And on this, so whenever you have something that looks like this and looks like this, one of the things we want to make sure is that they are in proportion. Now, because I knew I was going to do this today, I have a handout for everybody. And what it talks about, just give it to them and pass it around.
The golden ratio.
So one of the things it talks about design. And so the question is, what does this design look like? So the first thing is, are things in proportion? And it looks like, yes, they are. So if you compare this diameter with this diameter, they're pretty well in proportion. The thing that, like I said, now, one of the people that is famous for this kind of form is Phil Brown. And Phil would have made this piece, but it would have been considerably thinner. Now, that's not your fault. You're a relatively new turner. So whenever you start getting thin, people start to back off. So would this piece have looked better if it was thinner? Perhaps. But it's a very interesting piece. In England, they have a stuff called milliput. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's kind of a clayey kind of thing, but you can mix it with you can mix them together and form something like that, and just take holes and just jam it in the holes, and it'll harden up like that. And so I've seen, if you go on YouTube, you can see people turning milliput. So, but I've never seen that done. I thought those were originally canes of resin that you drilled and then stuck in there, but that's a really interesting technique, and I've never seen it before. And it might be really interesting to try, particularly in insets. You could hollow out, so we've got a piece that's coming up that might be a really interesting thing to do. So anyway.
Thank you. Well, I think you said it all. No.
A lot of it.
I like the proportions. The play off of the rim and the foot area. And I think, yes, there are straight lines, but they're repeating themselves, and so they create a pattern. I applaud your courage in trying something new and very different. Piecing the wood together in the first place is a challenge in and of itself. But on top of that, going and doing what you did with polymer wood, and as I understand, polymer wood is not polymer clay is not something that has been used. But on top of that, putting it in the heat that you did to try all of this, I hope you've taken great notes, because I could see more and more of this kind of work and experimentation, which is amazing, and then get the results and this kind of feedback for yourself, plus the courage of bringing it here and saying, okay, this is an experiment, but I'm sharing it with everybody, which is amazing. I'm drawn to that kind of yin-yang opposites where they kind of draw together. So there's a repetition of the pattern in the wood with the very geometric definition. But the pattern in the wood is also speaking to the very stark opposite colors of the white and the blue in the insert, which are of a much smaller size, which play with each other back and forth. The piece also, from the way it's arranged on the inside and the outside, The fact that your eye seems to go right through it, it doesn't stop, because once you see the blue and the white inserts that are circles and they're dots and they draw a lot of attention in the detail, they immediately go to the inside and go through the whole piece. It has an element of almost transparency because of the way you've inserted the design and incorporated them inside and outside.
Oh my goodness, Sal. I don't like being last here. Yes, I think that, yes, if you've only been turning for 6 months, you're amazing. I mean, Phil never wanted to do segmented things. He really did a great job on doing that. And that you're trying to experiment and trying something new is just really commendable. And, but actually, I like the segmented piece. And personally, I feel like your bubbles are fighting a little against it. And somehow the circles and all the geometric and the bowl, for me, are fighting, but I think you've got a lot of possibilities for all kinds of things you could do with that. But or maybe have fewer of the bubbles. It might be more. I don't know. But I feel like a tension of different things happening there. And yeah, it's really, really well done in terms of the segmenting, and you're experimenting. And you were talking about proportions, and I'm not sure about of course, I'm used to seeing Phil's bowls, but whether the height, he would always, I know he gave workshops on that and things. He was really big on the golden mean, and it's like things we don't even know, but our brains see things in certain ways. Like a piece of paper fits the golden mean that we use every day. We don't think of that. It looks right that way. But anyway, congratulations on bringing it and doing it and doing more with this idea. Wow, you made it work, so that's great.
Thank you all.
Justin, could you, Mike, you can.
Yes.
Moving back to the table again.
Okay, I was a little remiss at the beginning, and I forgot to give the rules. We need some rules, because we have 17 pieces, we have a little less than 2 hours, so when you come up, you have 1 minute to talk about your piece, okay? Where'd you go? No offense, but 1 minute to just talk about, just to let the people know maybe some of your thoughts. And the panel has 10 minutes, actually 8 minutes with maybe 2 minutes to spare. That just takes us to 2 hours. So we want to try to move it on. If you go past 1 minute talking about your piece, I'll tell you to put it down, okay? 1 minute, the timer. And I will run I am running a timer, just because we have to. I want to be fair to everybody, so everybody gets a chance
And we know Elliot.
to show.
I don't need a minute. This is a hollow form. This is classic hollow form. It's cherry, and it's inspired, I suppose, by David Ellsworth. And to the extent I have any kind of signature, I make a negative dip at the top. It makes it harder. Somebody on the panel asked me how this sort of thing is done. And the answer is with a curved tool. But a curved tool might reach here. What about back there? Well, now you need another curved tool. Well, what about real close here? You can't get under there. So the trick is you make them. You use a blowtorch and you make the tools. And David Ellsworth shows us how to do that. I took his class. That's the whole story. By the way, I'll tell you, well, after you tell me what you think, I'll tell you what David Ellsworth said about this.
Said it was too rich. If you look at the first page of my handout, it talks about what the difference is between criticism and critique. And one of the things that you should never do in a critique is find fault or be vague about what you're trying to say, or be really serious or snarky. There's no sense, there's no point in that. And so not only do we look at the flaws in the piece, but we look at the flaws in the artist too. And we're not going to do that, because that's not what critique is. This is, like you said, this is a classic piece. The question is that, normally, and this is a personal opinion, I would have my widest point a little bit higher. Okay, this one is actually below center. Okay, and it makes it look a little unusual, and that may have been intentional. So the point about doing anything artistic, it's a really good idea to know what the rules are. And then if you want to break the rules, that's fine, okay? I don't know if this was intentional or not.
Oh, yes.
So if that was what his intent was, then he accomplished it. If you were to turn this over, I actually think it looks better this way, but that's my opinion, okay? The other thing I notice is that the foot doesn't seem to be particularly well developed. It's just like it's stuck on as an afterthought. Normally, we try to make the feet a little bit more organic, and I'm not worried about the height, but the foot just kind of looks, like I said, it looks like it's just been stuck on. Beautiful piece.
The space, I'm just gonna go right into it. I really like the surface. It's smoothness, but it doesn't create such a high reflection that you can't see the pattern. You really pick up on the movement of the pattern, which really takes your eye around the whole piece. And it works because of because of that amount of space below it, and gives it that uplift, and in terms of the shadow. And the height and the fullness, maybe because it goes down through the rim, but that fullness is developed in a bit of a different way than when you turn it around upside down, for example. So the width of it, and it still feels as if it is breathing and expanding. It's not deflating. And that's what that's what this form is projecting. It's still growing. It's in how it's inflating itself, and that's quite an achievement to do with this particular material of wood. So congratulations.
Well, I agree. It's beautifully finished, beautiful wood. Your hollowing out is really great. I think I kind of disagree a little bit with you. To me, I feel like it's a little this whole idea that sagging down there, to me, seems like it's a balloon that maybe is starting to lose a little bit of air. It doesn't lift up as much as I might like to see. So, and it is off the table, but but you said you wanted that. You wanted that feeling. It's almost like it's sagging a little bit to me. And if that's what you wanted, then you did it. But it's otherwise beautiful wood, beautiful finish, I agree, and the turning and everything. Mm-hmm.
Ellsworth said what you said. He thought the bottom, he wasn't so much worried about the form of it. He said that it bothered him that when he felt it, it was a little sharp. Mm-hmm. And he said when you turn something, it should not only look good, but it should feel good. So I got a real criticism from the master about the feel of the foot.
In contrast to the rest of the piece.
He said, the rest of it feels, lovely.
Yeah, beautiful.
The bottom should feel as lovely, and I didn't, but I never made that mistake again.
So you don't do feet, right?
But the height of the foot and the amount of space there, I think,
You
does
need
a
the
great
lift.
deal for that piece.
A lot of turners have them so that they sink into the table. It's not so good.
Thank you.
Nobody wants to claim this?
No, it's all right.
In panel, you did real good. That was 7 minutes. That was perfect.
Okay, great.
There you go.
And I'm David Mayer, new.
I want to start this time. I'm just saying, because,
I like doing hollow forms. I like doing vases of different sizes. I like doing the weirder stuff that I can come up with. And this was a piece of mahogany I sort of had a chunk that was 2 inches tall, and I had to make something out of it. And I threw a lid on some walnut or something like walnut, and, it's a hollow form, and just fun.
Does the hollowness go all the way to the edge?
All it does.
I believe you.
You can certify it. No, it goes all the way to the out, all the way out. So I use Lyle Jameson's thing mostly. I have another one, but that one I'm most comfortable with. But it was still so narrow that it was a little funky getting around into the corners. But I like them really light and thin, so that's how I do them.
Wow. But there's more than a hollow form here, it's a lidded hollow form.
Yes, it's a lidded
Talk about
hollow.
the lid.
The lid is a fun thing to do because you got to be able to flip it back and forth and still finish it off without losing it and breaking it. And I end up having to make it's a jam chuck with a hole in it, so that it would go through like that, and I put a little rubber dam to keep it from scratching, and that's how I finished off the bottom.
Thank you.
Well, I think, wow, your first time here, but you're already an accomplished turner, my goodness, so good.
Well, I've been doing it for a few years, so.
Yeah, so this is good. Yeah, I think the wood is beautiful, the contrast is really interesting, and it's very appealing for that. It wasn't, my late husband always had everything perfectly smooth, so when I felt it, there's a little bit of bumps and things, but.
Well, actually, I usually go through half a dozen or more coats of varnish and sand in between.
Yeah.
But I ran out of time.
Okay, so
because
this is,
it would've been even
it's gonna be,
smoother.
well, it'll happen later, yeah, but it's very, it's pleasing and to me, and I think the we're talking about proportions of the lid to the face, and the contrast of wood makes it interesting. It's got a indentation rather than a foot, but for this one, I think it works to be down.
Yeah, I did notice, and I was thinking exactly that in terms of the coats that you'd have. You would probably expect it to be refined in between layers, right, in the thing. But the movement of the wood going across and the width in terms of the proportion, the proportion of the width of the whole piece to the height and the finishing of the lid is very pleasing to the eye as well. The undercut in terms of the amount of space, but the fullness is higher on this one, for example, than the other one was. So it seems to feel very, balanced, but not planted to the ground in the sense. Its lightness is visible, is felt visibly as well. I guess I question the contrast between the different colors of the wood. So when I first saw it, I thought, well, how would it be if it was of the same color and kept the note? That was the only thing that caught my eye in that way.
Yeah.
Not that it doesn't work, but it was just like, I would have loved to see it, the whole piece in this kind of wood, in that color, or the vice versa.
I could bring it back next year with a new lid. If
There you
want.
go. But really nice. Is the wood the same, is it the same wood?
No, it's not.
No,
Okay.
it's
This is mahogany, this is
Mahogany,
walnut.
okay.
It's not even walnut.
No, it's.
Some other kind of wood.
It's some other kind of walnut-like thing, but I turned off the information on the block, so I can't remember what it was, truthfully. And I use up whatever I've gotten, so yes.
I'm going to have to agree with her. If you're going to go for shiny, then go for shiny. So if you're going to go for shiny, you need to buff it out. So you could have probably used a Beal buffing system and buffed this out. You probably got enough coats on here that it would have buffed out just fine. But if you're going to go for shiny, then go for shiny. Don't leave it like this. Now, I understand that you're trying to get it in and that's a. The other question is about proportion. And this is an awkward problem because if you look at the next page, it talks about classical proportion. And classical proportion is derived from what's called, the Greeks call the golden ratio. And in this, normally it's a combination of the width of something and the height of something. So if you take a 3x5 card, that's kind of an almost perfect proportion. If you do the math, it's 1.6, real close to 1.62. This isn't close to that. so it looks a little squatty, it looks a little flat. The other thing is that when you sit this down on the table, because there's no foot on it, it's flat on the table. And it's so wide, that it's just on the table. So the other thing, so when you're trying to do a piece like this, that's one of the things you can keep in mind is, am I going to be able to accomplish what I want or not? And sometimes it's a great effort at hollowing. The wood's really nice, but the form is a little unusual. Does anybody know what these are? This is called a phi or a phi ruler, okay? And what this does, it allows you to use the golden ratio in your turning. So one of them is, on the top part, it talks about the long side, and then on the bottom part, it tells you what the short side should be based on that. Now, these things come in two different sizes. They come in a 12-inch size and a 6-inch size. You can also go onto the internet and just download it and glue it to a piece of board. But this can sort of help you figure out what the proper proportions of your piece ought to be, okay? And so the proportions of a piece are just as important as the overall form and the finish. So when you look at things, try to understand how proportionality is going to fit into things.
If you take the lid off, how does the proportion work for you? Is that, there's still,
I think it's a little better, actually. I think it looks a little bit better. This thing, I don't know, it just seems, I just seem to like that
That's nice that way.
better than this with the lid on it. And I'm glad you pointed that out.
just a thought.
And like you said, the color of the lid is actually it's actually a contrast. It's not harmonious, so that's sort of but you can always make another lid.
Or throw it away.
No, I wouldn't throw it away.
No, no,
Nice piece.
No. Don't take it that way.
No.
The phi ruler, how do you spell phi?
PHI?
Let's get something a little smaller this time. We've got some big pieces, now we've got a more delicate piece.
So if you look at the second page, it's on there.
Okay. Well, I've got specific questions about this.
In front of the mic.
Use the microphone.
Sorry. Oh, I just have specific questions about this. Sorry. Okay. Oh, I'm very bad at this.
You got it.
Okay,
Just
okay.
talk right there.
The shape of this partly comes as it's an experiment because I have a piece of lacewood that's 6 by 6 by 2. So I was wondering, I'd like to use it, but that's kind of an expensive sort of thing to start with. So I had this piece of ambrosia maple, and I want to know if you think it's too squat. Is the finial the right height? Gee, I've got another one in there that's a bit bigger, and you can try it out. I'll get it in a minute. And is my ring around here a bit too fat? Okay, the overall shape and proportions. Is it too shallow? Could it be 1/4 of an inch shallower? Because my piece of lacewood happens to be pretty marginal to get a lid out as well. But I found some bits of wood out there, some lacewood that would actually go with it. So that restraint got a bit reduced. Is the inlay too wide? I've cut in the finial base here, and in the other finial, which I'll show you, it's a bit wider. And I think it might look better a bit wider, but I'd be interested in what you think. And the height, and I'll show you the other finial so you've got a comparison. I was going to bring them both in so you could exchange them, and then I thought, I go with that one, so I stuck it in.
Well,
So see what you
I go with this one too.
Me too.
Choice-wise, for the delicacy of the piece and the overall size of the piece, that's why, right? As far as the rim, I don't think it's too large. I think it would fight more with your detailed patterns in the piece if you made them smaller. Because the lines, the thickness of this rim makes a clear statement, in my opinion. And it doesn't try to go into tension with the finer details in and around the piece, but it picks up the coloration of the pattern. So it makes a statement of its own, maybe because I'm a potter and because the rim is everything to a form. And therefore, it's a really good conclusion. It gives it strength, where otherwise it might feel a little weaker in terms of its conclusion. In this case, it does not feel weaker. The lid of itself, the same thing with the finishing of the finial, just seems to pair right up with the rest of the piece in a way. The fullness of form is high by just the way the light hits it. So fullness of form is a lot of drama as well. So it has a lot of presence on its own with it. And in this case, the beauty of the detail just continuously echo around the piece. So your eye keeps traveling around the piece. So I totally like the way.
Okay, well, you're so articulate, so my goodness.
No.
Yeah, no, but I agree. I think it seems very pleasing to me, very harmonious, and you're right about the colors working together with it all. And to me, it's up the right amount off the table. And I agree that the finial is good the way it is, and very nice finish and everything. It's really interesting piece of wood, so it's a beautiful piece, nice to touch.
One of the earlier comments was that the wood should feel good, and this feels really good. I mean, it's a really nice piece. So the quality of the finishing is really high. I love the contrast between this dark rim, this color, and this wood. It really is, the contrast is really nice, and it really sets off things. Sometimes we can get a little hung up on proportion. The quick rule is the rule of threes. So whenever you're making something, you can divide it into three pieces. So you could say that this, and this should be about a third. So I think it's this, and I really love the delicacy of this. And one of the really nice things is that the really good detailed cut you've made here, exceptional. Sometimes you only can do that with certain kinds of woods. Other kinds of wood, you would be almost impossible to get this kind of.
That's rosewood.
Yeah, you can't get this wood in this detail in certain kinds of wood. So the detail, the quality of the detail on this is extremely high. And the foot's really nice too. And also the foot's finished. So the foot is finished, it's signed, and it's got a little surprise in the center. It's always cute to have something like that. And the foot's finished. Yeah, the only thing that we might suggest is that it's the edge is a little sharp. You could have rounded the edge over a little bit more, but that's a minor detail. But the nice thing about this foot is it lifts this piece lifts the piece up, and it makes it float rather than just sitting flat on the surface. So it's a really beautiful piece. I'd love to have this piece of wood.
Look inside the lid. She said she put a little detail inside the lid as well.
Yep, it mirrors the foot, there's a little carving. So that's one of the things you can do, is you can take a texturing tool and texture it, you can take a little jewel and put it in there in the center. So when the person picks it up and goes, oh, a surprise. So that's always a fun thing to do when you're making a piece. We're talking about proportion. So this is a classic amphora. Which one of these pieces looks right? Looks correct. The middle one, right? So what I did is I took PowerPoint and I squashed this one down. And I took PowerPoint and I raised this one up. But basically what I did was I changed the ratio of the height to the width. And when you do that, you get this or you get this. Now, some people would like that form. Some people would like that form. Okay, so some people like the squatty one. But this is the classic form. And so our eye is immediately, whenever we see something that looks right, our eye is immediately drawn to it. And so if you look on the next page of your handout, it talks about the golden ratio and how you can establish the golden ratio on your pieces, and how the golden ratio is found throughout nature. So, for example, the relationship between my forearm and my hand is the golden ratio. So this distance is this, and this is 1.6. So, off we go.
Okay, after that fine piece of detail work, you're not getting detail. Okay. This is a salad bowl made out of walnut. I like it. To me, it's a little bit heavier than I was expecting, but hey, it's can be used for salad and stuff. So that's what it is. It's covered with. It's got just walnut oil finish.
Walnut oil.
Yeah.
Okay. Whenever you're making a piece, there's two considerations. One, what's it going to be for? Is it going to be art, or is it going to be a useful piece? This is a useful piece, okay? And whenever you make a useful piece, the rules are slightly different. You don't want a shiny surface on it, okay? Because the shiny surface will probably flake off and get into your food. So you're going to want to use a finish that's food safe, okay? Now, the only thing about it, it's not going to be shiny, but then again, it's not supposed to be shiny. Okay. The other thing is you don't want a piece that's going to tip over. So if you have a nice bowl with a real fine little tiny foot on it, it's going to be tippy and it's going to fall over. This bowl is solid and it's you're right, it is on the heavy side. But it'll get the job done, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Salad won't fall out bottom here.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about turning, I don't have that same skill, but the wall
Neither do I.
evenness would be something I'd be referencing to, so it's not so much the weight of it as the distribution of the weight, where the weight is, that I would give some attention in terms of that. But as far as a functional piece, and it is very pleasing to the touch and does have that appeal for being able to be used for its function. So, and the heft of it is
Right, and I'm imagining it's one that, people could pass around, but then when it's filled up, it's going to be very heavy. And I noticed that thing too about it's thicker at the bottom and the top, but it's a nice piece of wood and everything. So I think we all agree on this. Yeah, thank you.
Could we turn it? You could return it.
Oh, thank you. I might even put it back on and lighten it up a bit. So I do have a question, though. This is going to be going to a drier climate. If I make it thinner, does that decrease the risk of cracking?
As long as the walls are evenly thick,
Shouldn't have a problem.
shouldn't have a problem.
I was hoping you wouldn't say that, because now I
What
have to
happens,
put it back on the lathe.
what happens with wood is that if you have differential thickness, one area will dry out faster than the other area. And when that happens, you'll get a split. So that's why whenever you're rough turning a bowl, make very sure that the wall thickness is even all the way down. Some of them are still gonna crack, because wood does what wood does. But if you have even wall thicknesses, the probability of it cracking is much less than if it's thin up here and thick down here. So,
What about the
sapwood.
sapwood being parted? Is that gonna make it more likely to crack?
no,
No? And did you pick where this would be in the bowl, or just happened
It
to be?
just came there because that was the piece I had, and,
Yeah,
wanted it to be big enough for a salad bowl, but,
Yeah.
you can't get rid of it all the time.
right.
It's a nice accent, I like it.
Thank you.
And the way the light hits on the rim and holds your attention around the rim.
Very earthy looking.
It's interesting
For
that,
somebody who's significantly
It's-
younger, because.
Yes, it is somebody who's significantly younger. It's going to my niece and her husband that just got
They
married.
can handle heavy bulk.
Yeah, they're strong.
they're strong.
most people like that.
It works for the walking tools.
Okay, let's go to something fun. Not that you're both.
Oh, that's okay.
It looks too heavy to me.
Joe number 2. Okay, so this piece I made at the fair, partly. I made the bottom, one of those times I was turning. And then I found a piece for the top. They're different. This is a myrmidon.
What?
A myrmidon. The Greeks,
The Greek warriors that
they were described as looking like ants because there were so many of them. They called them myrmidons. So the reason that I started making these pieces with arachnids on them is because I got tired of making finials with perfect cuts and thin and the golden ratio and I thought, well, a finial is meant to be held onto to pick up the lid. That's what it's for. And so I made a couple of other boxes similar to this. This is the first ant I've made.
So how did you make the ant?
Well, I turned the body of it, and then I after I had it turned to basic shape, then I used the Dremel to round them off and to make them so that it looks curved. And then the legs, I came here and I got a piece of, not one piece, I got a package of Gaboon ebony, and I cut small pieces on the bandsaw and then sort of sanded them to shape. Each leg is made of I think it's 5 segments. And so the segments are interlocked at each part like that. One of them goes in between the two, and then it's all formed to look like
The way you
can't
did
see
it, it looks like a really live creature. I mean, he really,
That's the
really convincing.
intention.
Yeah, right, and like he's looking down there, he's going down in the hole, he's in the earth or something like that, so there's quite kind of a story that's really nice.
So
with that.
it was John Laffin who said, you should put an ant on that, because of all the ant holes in the lid.
Termites or things.
Yeah, well, termites are boring, They're just one big segment. No interest there.
So I think this is all really interesting. I'm not sure about the shape of the rest of the bowl or them working together as well, but this is really fascinating, I think. So let me see what you say.
I love pieces that tell a story. So this tells a story. It starts talking to you. And I think in the making, it probably talked with you as you were progressing with it. And it's always fascinating when there is that involved with the piece. And new ideas come with it as you're developing, and new challenges from what you're saying in terms of how the ant was created as well. The fact that the width here in the proportions component that you, from where the light hits it, it is a higher piece here, so all the attention is going on as well as all the detail, but the balancing of the dark areas in the lid with the ant make the ant feel not so strange. It is very much part of what's going on with the wood, so that story of that dialogue continues. And the light, the color of the patterns, although different from what's happening in the lid, the coloration unifies the piece. I think that's what carries the whole piece into a whole composition, because of the coloration brings it back in. And you have lines in the actual ant that are reflected in the lines of the patterns here, which play them together.
I would echo what she said. There's only one, I guess, if it were me, there's only one thing I would do slightly differently, and that is, I'm not a fan of the way you did the bottom. Because what happens is that you draw the eye down. Your eye is drawn down to this little curve at the bottom. You want the attention to be focused up here. You don't want it to be down there. And so that's the only critique I would have, is that if the bottom had been pulled in a little bit more, the focus would have been much more toward the top.
Narrower foot, you would say.
A narrower foot is what I would say.
Narrow foot, I agree too.
So that is the only.
So I'm going to share a clay concept.
Ooh, good.
Where when we're deciding what the outside foot should be on a vessel form, it is where the horizontal, which is called that true column, true base, where the horizontal begins to go up the curve. In this case, the foot starts almost on the wall. So if it were placed at the point where it starts to begin lifting up, that's where the stable column is, and that's where the foot ought to begin. And that's how to relate a vessel base to the inside. So you look at that inside curve to establish where the outside. Otherwise, if you look on the inside, you're seeing one vessel. You look at the outside, and the width of the foot gives you a different vessel.
Or you could use the golden ring.
That's just a technique.
Just say, I don't care, I like it.
I like the way it is. Thank you. Thank you. That's a great piece.
Where is the clipboard with the pens and stuff on it? On the table. On the table?
So I was happy to hear that rims are important, because this is one of the few considerations where I actually was thinking about the rim when I was making the piece. So I've done a few of these scalloped pieces now, and in doing those, I was mostly cutting the rim just flat across. And then I was thinking, well, it would draw the piece in more if I actually just did a slight indentation on that rim, and it makes it look more petal-like, I guess. And so that was my intent on this. It's ambrosia maple, and there are 10 scallops around.
What tools did you use to make the scallops?
I invented a tool.
Oh, there you go.
It's called the lathe engraver.
Yeah, so it's computer assisted in order to make it.
Okay.
But I did everything from designing the machine, writing all the software, and doing all that. So it wasn't a case where I just had somebody else do it for me.
Okay, so it's.
And he sells them if you like it.
No. You're absolutely correct about the rim. Whenever you make a bowl, you can always tell a new turner making a bowl, because the rim is flat and the bottom's flat. Because the way you cut the bowl off the lathe is you part it off with a parting tool. Okay, so you made a flat bottom. Well, That's nice, but unfortunately, over time, your bottom's gonna warp and your roll's gonna tip. So if you're gonna you're gonna take it off the lathe, you undercut the bottom slightly, and when you get to the very end, you cut it off about an eighth of an inch with a Chinese saw, or a Japanese saw, excuse me. Then you sand it flat. And the reason you do that, because if you try to go all the way, the probability is you're gonna put a dimple in the bottom, and it's impossible to sand a dimple out unless you keep going, and sometimes if you do that, sometimes you end up with a nice detail in the bottom that you don't want. So,
Or you invest in a vacuum chuck.
well, even so, I would still recommend you cut off, you have a little bit proud, you have whatever you're doing a little bit proud, and that way you can sand it flat. Otherwise, it's gonna be really, really awkward. So there's two ways to do the rim. You can either go up, so which invites you to go look up to the bowl, or look into the bowl. So, but a new turner will turn a rim dead flat normally. But this is an absolutely exquisite piece, and it's really, really hard using hand tools to get this level.
Well, he does it, he has his machine.
Yeah, I know that, but it's really difficult with hand tools to get something like this. You really gotta work at it, but this is an absolutely exquisite piece.
Is there no handwork after the?
There is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Lots of sanding.
lots of sanding,
Okay, all
yeah.
right.
Yeah, the cutter's rough.
Is it functional as far as the finish,
Yeah, yeah.
right? The foot plays so nicely in terms of position from the inside and the outside, given that that was just something we were commenting on, and that's what's working here, but also the proportions to the size of the whole piece of the actual scallops. And then obviously the highlights or the accents that work in the wood carry the eye through the whole composition.
That was one of the problems that I had with these, is that in some cases, if the wood was too plain, the scallops would be lost a little bit. And so having the ambrosia maple where there's a slash that goes across it, it popped them out more.
No, I think it's a beautiful bowl, so beautifully finished, and just wonderfully turned, and lots of little things to look at, like the little holes that you left, and I was noticing the way the light actually comes through some of the thin areas in here, which makes it even more interesting. But it does, when you said like a kind of a petal flower shape, it does look very natural, and the curves and the patterns in the wood really go nicely together. It's, I agree, a beautiful piece.
The finish is whatever Margaret has there. It's the doctor's wood shop,
Microcrystal wax bowl finish.
bowl, yeah, that one.
I call it guns.
Thank
Okay, we go from little.
Is that something that you
Go back to a
can
large
wash the
piece.
piece or use it or not?
Large piece.
That's what I call a hollow bar.
That's a hollow form.
It's sort of like a.
Yeah, a small hole.
Ooh, there we go. Scott, that's yours.
Oops. My name's Scott Blakeney, and I forget, were we supposed to talk about our piece, right? Okay, all right. So this is a piece of cherry that I sourced from Paul. I really like working with cherry. I think it's like has a warmth to it that's really natural, or really beautiful. So my inspiration for this was some of the pieces that I saw at the Strathmore, some of the ceramic pieces, and I thought the scale and just the form was beautiful. So I was trying to emulate something that I had seen there. It's a little heavier than what I would normally try to produce, but.
Well, the other thing about it is you don't want it to tip over.
Well, that's true.
You want a little bit of meat in the base, so
Okay.
it doesn't fall over.
It took so long to hollow that I got bored by the time I got to the bottom, so.
Well, again, let's say you were to put a bunch of dried things in it.
Well, yeah, yeah,
And they're tall, and that would make it fall over if it was light at the bottom. So
Right.
you've actually made it more, it's a little bit more functional that way than if it were, thin at the
Yeah.
bottom.
okay,
That's my opinion.
all right.
If it's ever sitting in a glass case, display case, nobody's gonna know about it.
That's true, okay. Well, yeah, no one's allowed to pick it up at home, so. Thanks.
What function does it have?
What function does it have? Well, oh, the weight? Oh, well, if you did display it like flowers or something like that, like a dried flower arrangement.
Doesn't have to have a function. That's the
Yeah,
answer.
right,
Yeah.
right, okay,
Doesn't
right,
have to have a function.
right.
But, something like that would look good in it. Yeah, something big, but the shape, I think, is really nice. I think you did get the kind of shape of the Chinese or, the Korean ceramics
It's
or
like a
something
vinegar
that.
jar or something, yeah, right.
But, I was
Yeah,
like,
it needs a little sanding on the bottom.
so you've got a lot of different interesting shapes, natural shapes, but, that makes it interesting, but, they're all very different. So the bowl is very different from your pieces, very different from different sides. And I don't know, did you have any idea when you were turning it about what was going to show up?
No, actually, that section on the side where, that's kind of got the big stain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of flew out when I was turning it. There was a very soft, punky piece there, and I lost it. And I was a little disheartened by that, but then I thought I could just make it a feature, so I burn it with a torch just
Oh,
to,
I see, you brought it out.
to bring it out a little further,
Okay.
yeah.
It's character.
Yeah,
It's a good, interesting feature to it.
It looks like Halloween bag.
yeah, right. It's like, or like
You
the.
can see a lot of things in it, it's like a Rorschach.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, what do you say, Gary?
So it clearly, just to the touch as well as to the visual eye, it brings it keeps your attention on the piece. Your eye doesn't go off. The lightness of the rim plays off on the lightness of the foot as well. So the color by accident as well as intention really keeps the involvement right in the whole form. As pleasing as the whole form is, the details in the designs as well carry the eye around the form, but at a diagonal versus just horizontally. So it just keeps your eye moving around as wood has, is that very natural pattern. The way you set it on the lathe to be able to bring in the turning, to bring the patterns out in the way that they have arranged themselves in the piece makes this piece very successful. So being sensitive, and I think I said this to people earlier in the thing, I'm always amazed at the amount of conversation that happens and the knowing of your material. And this goes to everybody, but it's visible in each of your pieces as we talk about them. It takes so much interaction and communication with the material and knowing it and really feeling and responding to it as you're reducing the wood on it so that you know when to stop, which is another whole, challenge.
That's another
So,
challenge, right.
amazing. Congratulations on this.
Thanks.
And hollowing something that deep takes a big hollowing rig.
Yeah, one of the problems is that you've got, since this is,
It's dried, yeah.
it's drying and when you have a piece this large, it's still wet on the inside. Wood dries an inch a year. So even if this was sitting for a while, the interior of this would still be wet. So this thing is still losing water. And it's gonna warp a little bit, and so eventually you'll have to probably go back and resand the foot so it'll sit flat. Right now, it's a little tippy. I don't know when you finish turning it.
It was probably a few months ago, I
Yeah,
think,
so
at this point.
it's
yeah.
still outgassing
Yeah,
water.
and it was completely wet.
But, and the shape may change slightly, but it's still and like you said, you did a great job sanding the outside. And it's so nice to touch, so it's beautiful. And the nice thing about it is that you can turn it, and every time you turn it, you get a different look.
Right,
So
right.
so you could put it on the center, it would make a wonderful centerpiece for a table, and like I said, with dried flowers or dried branches or something in it, would look really awesome. I think it's a great piece.
Thank you.
And, don't worry about what people say, they stick their fingers in there and they feel the ridges.
I
And the answer
actually,
is-
I took a measurement of Elliot's hand, so he can't get it down inside it. So that,
And the answer is, you don't care about what the inside's like, but you care about what the outside's like.
that was one of the things I was gonna ask, was I didn't lavish any sanding on the inside, but,
You can if you want to, but
yeah, right.
Just come and sand it to 1,000.
Yeah, thanks, okay.
But-
All right, okay.
move
all
on.
right, thanks,
Move
all
on.
right.
Thank you very much. It's
Sure.
really great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Scott.
That's a beautiful piece.
I think I misjudged this a little bit, so we need to, we have 45 minutes worth of pieces at 5 minutes apiece, so we need to speed up a little bit.
Yak
So,
about it. Go yak about it.
1 minute. I'm gonna stick you to 1 minute.
It may take me longer.
That'll come out of your other time.
Yeah, okay. So this piece of wood fell down in our neighborhood in 2000. I gotta take these marbles out of here. Just for the record, I put copper-covered marbles in it. This piece of wood came down in our neighborhood in 2007. I turned it 8 years later, and I liked the white spalting. Okay, to me, what makes this piece of wood is this white spalting. That's very unusual, and usually it goes too far and gets punky, and then you can't use it. So 8 years later, I was like, oh crap, it cracked. I should throw this away. But then Paul came along with his lathe engraver. Where are you, Paul? There he is. And I thought, okay, Piwa, that's the way, In Hawaii, if you put Piwa in a piece, it's very much value added because all of their old wooden bowls are hundreds of years old and they're kept in the family and they're patched with Piwa. And a bowl with a Piwa is much more valuable than one without. If you make a bowl today, like Kelly Dunn makes bowls in Hawaii, he can sell a regular bowl for, a couple $100. He puts a couple Piwas in it, it goes like for $400. So this is not just a fix. This is a cultural value added, okay? So anyway, what's it gonna be? I didn't want to turn this white spalting away. That was the whole point of keeping this piece of wood. So, okay, I'll make a box in a bowl. So it's a box in a bowl. Then it needed a lid, and so I played around, and many of you will recognize this as a signature form from ceramic artist Greg Holmes. Okay, I copied this directly, and this is his cultural property. This only goes on my kitchen table. I would never put this into a gallery. I would never try to sell it because that belongs to Greg Holmes. I just happened to thought it would look nice. And Tom brought up the fact that beginners make their bowls with flat rims. I always make my bowl with outies or innies, but for this, if I had done that, it would interrupt the flow of the plane of the finial, okay? So I made the rim purposefully flat to reflect the finial being extended. As Cliff Poudry used to like to do, it has the little gem in the bottom.
And and this copper is reflected on this copper on the foot as well.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's got the foot too.
What to say? First of all, the finishing is extremely fine on this. And one of the difficulties with working with wood that's potentially punky or rotten is you don't want to cut it too much. If you do, you end up gouging out big chunks of stuff, and So the fact that it's a little thicker than you might normally feel is, okay, that's all right, but it's an unusual piece. I like the fact that the wood here and these little bow ties seem like they're similar woods. Are they the same wood, or are they? Yeah, they look like
They're walnut.
They're walnut.
I was going to also say, for your benefit, the foot is 1/3 of the diameter of the bowl, which is close to golden.
Yes, it is.
Okay, the height of the bowl is 1/3 of the diameter, which is close to golden.
So if you look at the back page, it talks about that very same thing.
Okay, and the diameter of the outside of the bowl with respect to the diameter of the bowl is golden.
Well, I like when someone challenges the rules and makes things work, when compositionally you would think they're not gonna work. But then if you use all the right proportions, you get there, right? And I think that's what this piece does. I think you've taken on some challenges in this piece and compositionally made them work together. And I think the details with what is happening in the rim with the copper on the outside continuously brings you in and out of the piece. It's not always that one can turn a bowl into an artwork with a lid and a form, and that's what's happening here.
Yeah, it's very ingenious, and I think I agree, and I know our time's running out, so, and the wood is interesting, I'm glad you saved it, and it's, yeah, it looks very Japanese, Oriental somehow, and it works.
Roman Steichen. This is Sean Dwyer, he's a family friend. Tom, you may or may not recognize this.
Recognize that.
Tom did a demo in June and turned a platter, and this is what it was. And in July, we went to the picnic, and the platter was auctioned off for the privilege of being able to finish it and come in and submit it to the panel. And Sean won the last time, here. The last time Sean turned was in high school. He turned one bowl prior to turning this. Take it away, Sean.
Yeah, thank you. So, in spirit of the piece, I didn't want to change too much of it. I wanted to kind of keep it kind of as it is, but made my own, from it. So, it was interesting, you had said about, the thickness being the same. So I was trying to round it and then also keep the inside to the same, dimension, just so that aesthetically. We did have a little crack, but that happened from, we received it.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Wood does what wood does.
Yeah, exactly. And so I enjoyed myself immensely with this. We did trim it down. I trimmed it down just because we were trying to make it, what I was kind of looking at and envisioning. And so part of it was there was an outside rim, and in order, we could not find an exact little piece that worked with that. So I wanted some more detail. I'm very detail oriented. So if I had to do it again, I would make it a little more detailed. I did on the side, if you look at it, you could just round it. I didn't want to really do that because I wanted to keep an edge. And so that the edge on the bottom was different than the top, so the top is rounded and the bottom has an angle. Because if it was just rounded, I felt that it would make it even more plain and generic. So I learned a lot from it, and I really enjoyed myself.
But you did a lot of sanding.
I did a lot of sanding, and I did a lot of fine work,
And-
taking out not to cut out too much.
You can really tell how well you did the sanding on this. It's beautiful. One of the things about detail is sometimes if you've got a piece of wood that's really got a lot going on.
Yeah.
You don't need a lot of detail. The wood is essentially the star here. And you did a great job. Again, the platter was left fairly thick.
Yes.
And the reason I did that was for two reasons. First of all, what I was trying to demonstrate was how to do an OG curve. Okay?
Yeah.
That was the primary, but once you know how to do that, it's always much easier than to make it thinner, as long as you establish the curve, then you just keep working away on it.
Yeah.
I like the way you cut out the inside too. That's a really nice, you must have put it on a vacuum chuck.
Did, absolutely. Yeah, so there's a little bit of work when they done the vacuum chuck on the front side.
Yeah.
It did actually make a little indentation, so after it was all done, we did the back side and was all finished, then had to come back and touch it up. Yeah, redo.
You did a great job. Nice. What did you use for the finish? What's the
OD
finish? Oh, yeah, it's good. It's really good.
OD finish. Yeah. And it just, heat with paper towel, and it kind of sets it. So.
The edge plays with the other details in the actual working of it, because the power of the design in the wood itself is bringing a lot of attention. So contrasting and then the balance between the handmade and that which the wood offers you as a gift is a really nice play, but it's not overdone. It's not like you're trying to overpower with the amount of manual work. You're letting the wood speak out for itself.
Sometimes less is more.
And then this works in here because there's so much patterning happening, and you want to just keep holding this piece in there.
You want to make the wood.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece, very satisfying. I think you're right that the depth of this really gives that little shadow that really sets it off. And, it's
And it's
just
functional.
beautiful wood,
Yeah, you can set it on a table, put some, pine cones in
What
there.
a nice story it has too, the life of that
Well, the other
platter.
thing too is
yeah.
that if you want to show this off, get a plate stand and stand it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it'll stand up in that much space. Whereas if you had a bowl, it's really hard to do that. So this can actually be an art piece almost. So. Giddy up.
Move to something rather nice.
Jeff?
I'm going to put two of these down and let him talk about this.
So I'm Jeff Struing. I think in March, Stephen Barnard, one of our fellow members, gave a demo trying to recreate a sort of finial from an old clock. And it was turned on, I think, 4 or 5 different axes. I thought it was really cool, and he's demonstrating at CAW this weekend, the same one. But I went home immediately and took just a little piece of wood. I didn't pay quite enough attention because you turn it once on one axis, then you turn it 90 degrees, and you turn it on, I turned it on 3 different axes. He turned it on 4, which actually simplified it a lot. But it, creates these pretty interesting sort of shapes. So I then did the next bigger one, and as Tom was saying, these little things like this, you can do a lot of detailed texturing and burning and painting. I'd taken a workshop with Jacques Vessery, a multi-day workshop where we didn't do any turning. All we did was burning and painting. And this is essentially a dry brush technique. It's got 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 different colors. You dye everything black first, and then you go to a slightly lighter color, and it's very laborious because you have like almost no paint. It doesn't seem like you're putting anything on, but eventually it all comes through, and so they seem to be a trio. I called it a spineless trio because it looked a little bit like a spineless sort of sea urchin maybe to me, but maybe you see something else in it, I don't know.
They're really intriguing. They look like natural objects, and all the little details in them and the little lines you put in, they're just really amazing. And I think the little brown smooth balls on the top work, they set them off.
I mean, there's a hole, there's a hole in the top from one of the turnings, so I had to do something
Yeah.
with that, yeah.
But they look like something you'd find in nature, yeah.
Technical question, did you piece individual pieces together, or just out of one piece?
One solid piece.
One solid
Yeah,
piece?
just one piece of wood.
And I think this, knowing the craft does speak to, one can misread something when you don't know the amount of work that has gone into something like this and how rich that becomes. And so I think these are just absolutely amazing, beautiful. And the fact that you use color with the wood and bring out the texture in this whole other way is also unique.
One of my first forays into criticism was, I was a new turner, and I had been in CAW for about 3 years, and I'd turned a bowl, and I'd never brought any pieces to the CAW show and tell. And so that day, the day I went, I brought a piece in. It was a nice bowl. It had a pretty nice shape into it. And so the person who was there, they said, we're going to have our guest turner today critique the work. And I said, okay. So the first piece he picks up was my piece. And the guy happened to be Jacques Vessery. And if you know anything about Jacques Vessery, Jacques is all about form, and he's all about the golden mean, and he was actually fairly kind to my piece. He said it was too fat on the bottom, so I said, okay. But this is a really neat technique. There's a guy on YouTube who's turning 8-pointed stars. If you've ever seen him do that, this is a kind of a play on that. So you can actually turn, but it's one of those things you got to be really painstaking to do this, because if you get it your wood has to be really dead square. Otherwise, you'll end up with really oddball shapes. And the painting technique on this is really cool, because it's probably like 30 coats of paint on this. It's a really nice job. I mean, unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do with it except to look at it or hang it on a Christmas tree.
And I know it's nice to have a group of them as a piece.
Yeah.
Look
at them and appreciate them.
We appreciate them. Put them in a bowl.
All right, I'm going to take a turn. A small box, cherry. I wanted some kind of a dragoness design on this thing, so I turned the bowl, and then I gave it to an artist that works with me, and she drew the pattern. I then imported the pattern, scales and everything, into a laser. Lasered it on the outside, and then we went back and we burned the dragon, and then give it a little paint.
I really like this. And again, it's a functional box. It doesn't have to be anything magical. The only thing I would say, you should have made the dragon brighter. Paint the dragon red. Give it gold highlights, okay? Give it gold highlights, paint it red, or paint it green, or but right now, it falls into the background. It doesn't jump out at you, and a piece like this, of this detail, should leap out at you. You should just go, wow, that's really cool. So you saw my little.
So I could still highlight the burn.
See my lizards?
Yeah.
Just paint that red, and it'll look spectacular.
So I'm going to disagree with you. I like the way he did it, that this is it's related to the wood, the burning, and it's fun to look and all of a sudden realize what it is and see his eye. And I like it this way. But I didn't understand when you said that you lasered it.
The design is put on the bowl with a laser machine.
With the laser.
Oh, my goodness
The
gracious.
outside or the pattern?
The whole thing.
The play of the dragon and the background pattern really echo each other in a very, and it holds, the form is this is the appeal of a simple form because your attention is in all of that detail, and you've achieved your goal.
If you've got something really exciting going on, you don't need an elaborate form. Additionally, if the form were to fall off, it's very difficult to get the design on there properly. So this kind of form works really well with a very detailed drawing.
And I think having the large dragon is a small box, but the proportion of the design to the box is good, again, a good balance.
Also, good decision on leaving the lid the way it was, which you could have caught yourself up into doing the lid with details as well, but left it as it is.
I did another one. I have another one. If we have time, I'll show it to you, where I did do something on the lid. But this, I felt there was
A Chinese good luck symbol on the lid would be nice. There's a symbol for good luck on the, you could put that on there, or long life. That would look nice too.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name's Chris Burns. Part of why I wanted to bring something tonight is I don't present very much. I haven't finished a piece since April because I do a lot of twice turn bowls, and I have about 65 at home that have been first turned. So I wanted to come here and bring one nonetheless. It's oak. I don't know what kind of oak it is. It's live edge. It's from a crotch piece. So there is a companion piece to this that has been turned, but it has not been sanded or finished. This is also not yet finished. And Gary said, he assured me that's okay. But I will get there, and when I do so, I will jam chuck it and undercut it, as you noted, and part it off so that it will hopefully sit well. When I did turn it and then left it, because it was wet, for 3 or 4 weeks to dry out before I sanded, actually probably closer to 2 months, some of the bark had separated. So there is one area where I really had to saturate it with CA glue in order to keep it there. It stuck. Unfortunately, it's really hard to sand off all the CA glue, but I got most of it sanded to 800 and finished with food safe tried and true oil.
Finally have someone that use the microphone. This is a really nice job of centering the crotch piece in here, and so you've got really good balance on both sides. This is a piece of white oak, by the way.
Thank you.
Out of your curiosity. Let me show you how to use the phi ruler. The phi ruler says that this bowl is 10 inches wide, and so that's the long side. Okay, so the long side, so the short side says your foot should be, you should have about a 3-inch foot. So when you take this down, pull your foot into about 3 inches. And when you do that, you're going to have to reshape the outside of your bowl.
Yeah.
Down there. So that's the only drawback of particularly large feet like this, is that you've got to, if you want to be in the correct proportions, you're going to have to actually rework the bottom a little bit. But it's a really nice piece, and like I said, it's really well balanced.
Very exciting piece. The rim, the strength of the rim, the finish of the rim, the fact that it dances or moves in different heights as does the pattern, really plays together. My comment with the rim, with the foot and the rim, I'd like them to have a conversation as well. So I don't know how you would finish the rim, but I would want to see a little stronger foot that would interact with the rest of the bowl in the way that it does. So character-wise, I think there's a bit of a discrepancy between what's going on and the excitement that's going on here, and then how to finish the foot, so I'll leave that to you.
So do you think you can keep the lichen, the green? It's really neat.
I think it's there. I think it's sticking around.
It's going to stay. That's
Yeah.
really interesting to have that.
It'll turn
Yeah.
gray, it'll
Yeah.
turn gray.
Yeah, but, you really found a good piece of wood, and keeping it natural, I think, really works for this. I mean, keeping the natural edge, and that you kept it pretty much on is good, so, yeah,
That's
it's
the only problem.
great to bring it in while you're working on it. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
The lowness in here makes this the front where you want to come into the piece,
Right.
so that kind of allows you to see everything.
Tree helps it out with it.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. Who's next?
So speaking of unfinished, this is totally unfinished, but it was turned as a dry piece, which was a rare opportunity for me at the time, because most of the things that I had were wet once to twice, and twice was way too early, so I've only been turning for maybe a couple of years, and not all the time. So this, I believe, was walnut. I think that's what it is. And the thing that surprised me about it as I was going through this was all the holes that you see from the bugs were not evident on the outside at all. The outside was solid, and I was really surprised by that. And I took a little extra time on the rim because I wanted a thicker rim rather than always having to do what you had to do with wet wood. So there you go.
This is, like you said, this is walnut. And walnut and cherry are pretty friendly woods, but they have a tendency to be a little bit on the soft side. So one of the things that tends to happen is two things can happen when you're turning. You can either get ridges or you can get compression marks. It is much more preferable to get ridges than compression marks, because you can sand ridges out. You can't, sanding out compression marks is much more difficult. I noticed that you've got a couple of, and a lot of this has to do with time on the lathe, okay? The more time on the lathe you have, the better you are with your tool control. Now, when this piece is finally finished, it's going to look really good. You're going to sand it to 600. You're going to put a finish on it, and people are going to go, "Oh, that's beautiful." And they don't care how it was. They don't care that it had tool marks on it. They don't care that it had compression marks on it. That's no big deal, all right? So we are hobbyist turners, okay? We are not in production, and that gives us two advantages. First of all, we can take our time. We're not on the clock. We can work on a piece until we're happy with it, okay? And we're hobbyist turners. So we're not trying to make a living. And if you're happy with a piece, and if you think you've done your best job, that's great, and that's what you should be doing. Now, one of the comments on that criticism and critique is you as a turner should every once in a while sit back and do a self-critique. Say, what did I do good? And what can I do to make my work better? And that's something that you have to sit down and think over yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Just say, this is what I'm going to do the next time.
I like the details, the happy accidents, and the one with the mark going straight into the hole there is just beautiful. And then on the other side, you've got other things happening, and so it picks up the pattern. There's a pattern in here also that is very Native American. If you can see the two circles on either side of the bowl, many people try to mimic that, and you're getting it right there naturally in the wood. So that's for the surface work. The change in transitions in terms of how you're finishing your rims on each on the edges on each side, really continues with the whole piece. The question I have as is going to be finished is, if you see you have this moving ridge, so is the intent to keep it round, or is the intent to give it these planes that you want? So that's the question.
Okay, so, I think, yeah, we're going to keep going. I don't have a lot more because it's in progress and you had good comments. So it's, yeah, but I think, yeah, it's going to be a nice ball, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff? You're doing good. You got 2 more to go.
Okay.
Just gonna make it. Jeff doesn't talk too long.
My name is Jeff Gilbert. What inspired me was a picture I saw in a magazine. So I went and found some instructions, none of which worked for me, so each step ended up to be my own. But the whole idea was the eggshell rim, and that's what I liked about it.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, it is eggshell.
It is eggshell, yes.
It is, okay. This is a piece that's reminiscent of something that's done by Tom Worsing, okay? And he gave the piece to somebody in South Africa, and they actually inset ostrich egg pieces. So tell us, did you use, is this epoxy resin in here?
No,
What is this?
It's black acrylic paint.
Ah, black acrylic paint. And so you glued each one of the pieces in?
Yes.
One by one?
One by one.
Good for you.
Elmer's glue.
The other alternative is, you might think of, I don't know if it's possible, is you could have put a thin coat of resin in here, and that would have raised this up, so when you put those in, it would be close. But I love this piece. And the interior is really well done. I would do a little bit of Beal buffing on the back to make the back just as nice as the front. But this is a really striking piece, and I would be happy to own a piece like this.
What kind of wood is it?
It's maple.
Maple. So I have a question. To me, the shine took a little bit away from the eggshells, but it doesn't for you?
No, it doesn't. In fact,
Doesn't for you?
Because the eggshells are shiny too.
Yeah.
It almost looks
And
like
then
under
you painted them blue, you put blue or something on there.
Blue dye.
Do blue dye, yeah. So it gives it a lot of variety to it, yeah.
Now I have to make something with eggshells.
And then the black here picks up the black in the paint.
Much smaller, not less glue.
Yeah. The weight of it for is amazing, because it's almost a feather, and one would not, expect it as a wood, so that took a lot of turning and then being able to get it to stay without deforming. So that's amazing. And I think the patterns that are in the wood also speak with the patterns that you've put into the mosaic around it. Great combination of materials as well.
It's really
Amazing craftsmanship.
Good for you. This is really great. It's a great piece. Thank you.
This is a piece of wood that was a lot of fun. I always try to find crotch wood.
Yeah.
It's exciting. Had no idea what I might find inside, but as you can see, it's just a gorgeous feather. And as it's dried, the feather has gotten larger, or it's gotten more predominant. Now, I'd like to keep the edge, the bark, as much as I possibly can. So this becomes a little more sculptural than anything else. I don't know if the bark overwhelms the bowl itself.
What kind of wood is it?
It's walnut.
No.
But it has beautiful shapes all around it. And he has so much fun to discover what's inside a piece of wood.
It's like opening up a Christmas present.
It's part of what it's all about to do this.
How's it finished?
Pardon me?
How's it finished?
Well, that was a problem for me. Usually I don't do a shiny finish. I usually do oil and varnish, Mahoney's mixture. But I made it shiny this time with some water locks, just to see what it was like. I'm not sure I like it.
I like it. There's two things that are going on that are really wonderful in this. The balance in it is really exceptional. That feather or flame is beautiful. And if you were to buff it out with Bill buffing, that would really jump out a little bit more.
Okay.
My only reservation is, I think it's a little too high, it's a little too tall. It should have been a little shorter. But in your foot, you could do some.
It's been drying.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
been drying. And that's the problem with turning wood that you harvest yourself. It's gonna dry. And like I said, wood dries an inch a year. And so this will still continue to dry a little bit more, and then when it's done, you can finish sanding the foot to get.
You don't think the bark is too dominant?
No, I do not. And the reason it's not is because it's offset by this white stripe.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get that contrast between the dark wood, the dark bark, and that white sapwood. I think it looks great.
The foot is stronger at the end.
And there you go.
Another one where the tree did a lot of the art, but you brought it out.
That's
You
right.
know? It's amazing the way that
You don't have to do much when the wood is good, yeah.
Well, that's the gift, and if you look at the way that white line moves to the center, and then it does a similar thing on the outside, it's just talking to you.
Right. Oh, great, yeah, I think, it's really, it's a strong piece, it just has a lot of life to it, really is good, and it's.
Feels
you
like
brought it
a
out.
surf wave rolling
Kinda,
over.
Yeah, no, I think the bark is good, I'm glad you left it, yeah.
It's so much fun when it's happening. You don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
what is in there.
Did you know that white was going to be there?
Well, you know it's there, but you don't know how far down
don't
it's
know what
gonna
it's gonna
go.
look
And you could control the height of
Yeah.
it. Okay.
So much fun.
Let me ask a question of the assembly here. How many of you have a sketchbook? Good. All right. One of the things that a lot of artists always talk about is that you should have a sketchbook. So if you get an idea or you see something, make a note of it and then come back sometimes and make it. So this is a sketchbook I started a couple of years ago. If you're interested in a little bit more about the Golden Mean, Jacques Vessery references 2 books, and come and see me afterwards, and I'll give you the titles if you want to, if you'd like to explore the concept of the Golden Mean a little bit more.
We got one more non-bowl, right?
This is a non-bowl. My name is Dwayne Schmidt. I virtually watched the demonstration by Mark Spheri at the symposium this year, where he made, it was a stool, but it was 3 spheres stacked on top of each other, single axis, that he carved away a bunch of the form, like I've done here. Part of what he mentioned was that his piece ended up looking multi-axis. So I've been doing various multi-axis things, and I thought his technique was really interesting. I wanted to apply it to multi-axis, which is what I've done here. This is kind of crude, but I'm interested in the sculpture form, whatever, of it.
So,
it's ash, note to self, don't use ash when you have to carve stuff.
so it's all one piece of wood that you make out of it? Yeah.
It's all one piece of wood, yeah, turned.
And I think you put a note on it, like a model for a big sculpture.
Well, so
Might
I
work.
would
It might
love
work.
to make a big one. I don't know how to do that.
I don't know how you do it on a
yet.
lathe.
real big lathe.
But, I can imagine it being a big sculpture. I think it's a nice piece, interesting piece of sculpture. It has a lot of angles and turns and, yeah.
Explain to me how you get the straight cuts. Are they sawn?
The straight cuts were carved away.
With what?
Combination of whatever I had that, I actually used a saw, drew the lines
Right.
to where I was going to cut used a saw to cut into it at multiple places to establish my depth.
Right.
Sometimes with a chisel, eventually sometimes with a rotary tool, I carved away down to those depths and.
Can I ask, did you start with a sketch? Did you know?
Absolutely, I started, and this is this is version 3 at least. It's the first one I kind of finished. Yeah, started with some sketches and attempted some really initial ones. This one is close. Excuse me? Oh. It's arbitrary at this point.
Some kind of paint, right?
How I chose or what it is. The color is India ink, black and white mixed. So it's sort of a whitewashed look to it. I just didn't quite like the wood look, and I don't know. At this point, I just wanted to reduce down more towards the form at this point, partly for looking at
Well,
for
that's
future.
that's exactly what I was picking up on.
Yeah.
I was picking up on, because I see the pattern in there, but the pattern is not overpowering
Yeah.
the overall piece in terms of the sculpted piece. So that's why I was
Yeah.
wondering if that was an intentional or if that's just the accident of the wood. But given that there are different versions, you probably have other pieces where the patterns is more accentuated, because that gives you another level of problematics to solve.
Yes.
In terms of that, so yes.
If you want to emphasize the form, you don't want too much grain.
Right.
Yeah.
But the amount of grain you can see.
I do like that about ash.
One of the more difficult things to do in wood turning is multi-axis turning. Normally, when we turn, we're only concerned about 2 dimensions primarily, an outside dimension and an inside dimension. And this is actually 3 dimensions, and that kind of warps people's heads a little bit. And because if you look at this carefully, you'll actually see a spiraling form. And that's really hard to do, but more than that, it's really hard to figure out how to do. And so, because this thing is turned, there's another thing that goes up here.
Yep.
You know, because you're actually turning this you change the axis, change this axis, change this axis, change this axis, and just keep doing this. Safiri is a master of doing this. Derek Weidman if you've ever seen him turn his animal heads, it's just nothing short of astounding. This is a really interesting piece. The only thing I would do would be to soften the edges a little bit, because you've got all these sharp planes. But if you were to just round the edges over a little bit, make the edges a little bit softer, I think that would make it really interesting. But kind of that's up to you. And additionally, the other thing you might consider is using contrasting paint colors on some of these surfaces. So it's not just a uniform muddy color. So when you turn it, there's kind of a surprise. There's a blue or a red or a green or an orange.
Well, you could make about 5 different ones.
Or you could use gradations of color. So as the form moves, the color moves. So you have a lot of potential here to make something really, really interesting.
What about a bronze color, make it look like bronze?
Make it look like bronze and then put some of the patina stuff on it. Put the patina on it, so.
I like what he's doing, because shadows play well.
Well, I'm going to respond to what you have in the sense that the amount of spacing, there is a great deal of space wherever the eye moves to, there is space to move into those areas as opposed to being caught where no exit, visually speaking. So it is inviting to the surrounding area in that sense, and it really works with that. Right, exactly, that's what I'm talking about. And no two are alike, so every turn of degree, every degree of turn, and not just left, right, front, and back, but almost every turn, you're seeing another piece. You're seeing something different in terms of the shadow. And that's not an easy thing to capture in such a complex piece.
It's sort of like Mark's Fury, there's a figure in there very, very subtly.
And I know that Dwayne has had family visiting, and he started turning this yesterday morning.
Yeah, but the ones that came before were, were before. Well, but don't look at the flaw.
So, you could,
It was, I was doing metric just to divide stuff. It was close to 150 meters square by 16 inches tall.
you can take it to a foundry, they laser scan it, and then they can enlarge it, and you'll have a
Yeah.
great big bronze sculpture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could.
Color
Yeah.
you use that keep working.
Get some of the chroma color.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, and then, so put the bronze on it, then do some highlights in gold or some highlights
Okay.
in verdigris.
Yeah, there's the,
How many
so
actually? Four?
Thank
I didn't
you.
use the center, it was five.
Five.
Wow,
And
didn't use the
fireworks.
That wraps up. Thank you. I think Gary's going to say just 3 short words. 'cause
Yes,
we have to start cleaning up.
I want to thank everyone who brought a piece for doing that, even if I had to twist a few arms. Thank you very much. Thank you, audience, who came to watch. And of course, the guys who are doing this for the fun of it, joining us for the good of art. Thank you.
I hope